Thank you, Megan. Thank you. How's the pizza? It's pizza? Okay. It's free pizza, right? Well, thank you for having me, and thank you, Megan, for inviting me over. Megan and I met in May, actually, at the U.S. Distance Learning Association conference in St. Louis, and became fast friends because we have one university in common at SIU, where I currently teach, but we are both alumni from that university. So I wanted to talk just a little bit with you today about how I use social media in the classroom. And I'm staying back here because I need to be able to operate a computer and hyperlinks and that kind of thing. And I promised I'd stay close to the microphone and not have to move around too much. I started, well, you know what, first let me ask, how many of you use social media now in your classrooms at all? Nothing at all. So I have a lot of convincing to do, right? How many of you use social media just personally? So almost everybody? Facebook? That's usually the first one. Anybody tweet? Twitter? Pinterest? Like, I hear it, yeah. And then back for that. How many of you watch YouTube videos? Okay. Do you use any of those in your classes? Okay, so you're teaching with social media, even though you didn't think you were. So that's a great start. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my own perspective on why social media and my own use of social media. The handouts that we have available for you will give you a whole lot more ideas than what I'm going to present today. There simply just isn't enough time on the lunch hour to give you everything I want to give you. So feel free to look at those and kind of play with the tools that are on there. So we'll talk a little bit about why I got started using social media, and I've been using it for several years now, how you can get started easily and kind of maybe slowly and softly, some tips and tricks along the way, and of course, I'm a storyteller, so we tell lots of those. Social media is not just social, and I'll let you read those, but I started using social media in 2009 inside the classroom. I had been a MySpace user at that point. I was a Facebook user at that point. YouTube was becoming a fast friend of mine as well, and that was kind of the area I was familiar with. I was a blog reader, but not a blog writer by any nature at that point. How many of you have read a blog? Knowingly. Anybody write one? One, kind of? Yes?
It was in
for a class? Okay, great, wonderful. But one of the reasons I started using it in class is because my industry, which is travel and tourism, had actually already started using social media in their daily operations. And for the most part at that point it was marketing. And for us, for my industry, blogs were the front runner, and that started in about 2001, 2002. So in 2009, I was already a few years behind what my industry was doing. So I saw a need there to be able to connect my tourism students to that piece of what was happening in the industry, and I tried and failed a few times and tried and succeeded many more times thereafter on how to bring social media into my classroom. So those are the stories I'll tell you along the way. I'm a Star Trek fan, and I'm a Star Wars fan, if you hadn't noticed by the galaxy far, far away. Things that I grew up on as a Generation X girl. But my first attempt at social media in the classroom was a hospitality marketing course. Anybody in here teach business, marketing? A few? Okay. What else do you guys teach, just so I know? Nursing? Huh?
geology.
Okay, geology? English?
Math. Services.
Okay, all right, so we've got a pretty good mix here. This was a hospitality marketing class, and it was a perfect fit for me to bring social media into the classroom just by the nature of what industry was doing in my world and what I knew I could do for my students in class. So I started a blog that semester. That was 2009, my first experiment, and it went pretty well. It was also my first blog, which didn't necessarily go pretty well, but we made it work. And it was a twofold reason. I personally wanted to utilize this particular medium so I could learn more about it myself. and also to provide my students with current information. And it's one of the best mediums out there, or was at the time certainly, to be able to get that information to my students. So I started a blog. I wrote everything. I posted everything. I connected students to outside links or videos, things that were going on in the industry, and then I required them to comment. But just as an example, here's one of the posts that I created based on a public relations lecture that I had given that particular day in class. That's loud.
Here's for the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. Now, the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
All right, so this is just an example of the types of things that I was posting on the blog. And again, sometimes I wrote my own posts, sometimes I used outside things. And that particular video was specifically tied to that day's lecture that had been about public relations and branding. So there was a reason to choose that video. I had about 15 comments. It was a relatively small class of 20, maybe 22 that semester. About 15 comments on this particular post, and those are just some of the comments that I pulled off of the blog site for this presentation. But what that allowed students to do, again, was to see what was going on outside of the classroom and to be able to connect some of those things to what we had talked about in the classroom. They kept the conversation going, obviously, by posting and talking back and forth with each other. And typically what would happen, too, is we would come back to the class on the next session and just carry forth the conversation. So it really kind of kept them in that marketing mindset that semester outside the classroom, which is so very hard to do with college students. They tend to forget things when they walk out the door when the bell rings. Do you guys still have bells that ring? Sorry. So, you know, it serves that purpose, a communication purpose. I launched into Facebook groups for a variety of reasons. I have this belief that it's important for us as faculty, but also as advisors and other mentors within our programs to kind of meet the kids. They're all my kids, by the way. Meet our students in their own space. And for me, that space is Facebook by far, and probably for most of us it is. Certainly started out that way. So I use Facebook groups for our registered student organizations. Our advisors are administrators on our respective student organization Facebook pages and Facebook groups. So we always keep some sort of control, even though it's mostly the students using it. We have Facebook groups for our alumni, for our current students, for our prospective students. We also have Facebook pages, and I will explain the difference, I promise. Study abroad groups, when we have a group of students that go elsewhere for a 2-week study abroad. We usually set up a Facebook group for that so they can communicate with parents or friends back home or whomever they choose. And then, of course, courses. This allows us, again, to kind of tap into that communication after class is over with and be able to share information. So I actually have left the blogosphere, if you will, in favor of Facebook groups for my classes because it's a little bit easier to share that information that way. The difference between groups and pages. Those of you who are on Facebook, how many brand pages have you liked? Lots? None? None? We're not brand loyal in here? Our students?
USI.
I hope so. At least USI, right? The biggest difference between a Facebook page and a group you have to typically ask to join the group or have somebody invite you to join the group. So it's pretty well closed unless you're within that group of people somehow. A page is open to anybody. So we also have pages for our registered student organizations, and that's a way for them to kind of market the organization and grab new members, recruit new members. We have pages for just generally for our programs, also as a way to get awareness out there and maybe recruit a little bit if we're lucky. We'll see if I can get out to the internet here without messing all this up. This is an example of our Facebook page, and I am not logged in, so you're going to see all the please sign up for Facebook stuff. But just as an example of how we use it, I share information, kind of general information that would go across all of our students. I post internship information. I post career information for our graduating students. Any events that are going on campus or within the college that they need to know about. So there's a lot of ways to use this. And it's a great way for them to kind of keep connected as well. Pardon me?
How do you organize your Facebook in the sense who is responsible to respond to different messages and so forth?
It's me. It's one person, yeah. We really don't have a set system for programs and colleges at SIU. The SIU as a whole, those Facebook pages, there is a designated set of people that respond to those, and they're administrative folks. Within colleges and certainly programs, not all of our programs or colleges even have a Facebook page. It's up to us whether we want to use it or not. Certainly not mandated, and then it's really up to whoever volunteers to do it within the college. And it's something, social media I've kind of integrated that into my lifestyle anyway, because that's where my professional network is. So for me to be able to post something quickly on Facebook, it takes me, a handful of seconds, and I just move on with my day. So one of the things I hear a lot, and not always from faculty, I talk to professionals out in my industry too, is if they're not familiar with the social media, they perceive a large amount of time being kind of socked into this. And maybe in the beginning, once you're getting used to the medium and to the tools, but once you get kind of going and get used to that, it really just becomes a piece of what you do every day. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to close this and hope it gets me back to where I need to be. Awesome. I am a heavy Twitter user, and Twitter is primarily where my professional network is of tourism industry folks. I'm also a big local food advocate, so I have that piece of my network on Twitter as well. And in my world, specifically the event planning world, if nobody knows what a back channel is, a back channel is actually an old kind of radio audio term that has been adopted in the Twitterverse, again, some lingo. And essentially what a back channel is, if you are at an event, a conference, convention, anything like that, or just a banquet, a keynote session somewhere, what usually is happening if you've got a younger audience, or even those younger baby boomer audiences, they're on their phones, on their mobile devices, tweeting while that workshop or conference is going on. And we use hashtags. This is an example of a hashtag, and this is my course number too, by the way, that I use Twitter in. We use hashtags to communicate with each other at conferences, at meetings. It's also a way for us to kind of track our conversation as we go through the conference or meeting. And the reason I started using Twitter, I use this primarily and most specifically in a convention and management course that I teach. I teach a lot of event planning courses. And I chose to start doing this. This is my third year doing this, 3 classes, 1 each year. The first time I tried it, it bombed miserably, failed miserably, because I didn't have enough students using Twitter. I had maybe 2 out of 27 using Twitter, so it didn't work out so well. You learn as you go sometimes. This semester is by far and away the best semester I've had with my students using Twitter. And I started this because they are event planners. Some of them are event planners from the facility standpoint, so the person you would work with at your hotel, to plan an event. And I thought they needed to understand how this particular piece of technology and tool is being used in that setting. So I kind of just picked it up out of the real world, if you will, and put it in my classroom to mimic that a little bit. It is going very well this semester. I'm very pleased with how my students are using it. We always use the course number, HTA 465 is my course number, as the hashtag, and then they always come up with their own as we go through the semester. And this is my Twitter site, and I am going to hope I can do this without logging in. Okay. Can anybody see that well enough? It's hard to see, I know. So you can see, I canceled class today so I could come here, and they're happy about it because tomorrow starts fall break. They can all go home early. So we can see that Natalie is happy about that. But you saw me, I just typed in the hashtag, my course number, and I can see every tweet that happens. Now, on my end, kind of on the behind the scenes side of it, I actually use third-party software to track this for me, so I don't have to look at it every day if I don't have time or don't want to. So I actually have a report that comes to me once a week that says, here's everybody who's tweeted from your class and what they've said. But this gives you an example. This is me. You can see some of the things. I communicate back and forth with them. If they ask questions, I answer them. Most of the time, they're really just kind of reflecting on what I talk about in the classroom. So it's a great way for them to have things kind of sink in up here that they might not otherwise. They talk back and forth. We've had a handful of industry folks jump in on the conversation as well. So I'm teaching them how to use this from a professional standpoint, which I think we all need to be doing for our students, and also giving them the chance to start building that network by bringing industry into the conversation a little bit. If you were to ask me my favorite social medium to use, Twitter is absolutely it. All right. Personal branding and career building is another area that is my own personal focus in some classes that I teach. I also teach a senior seminar class, and for us, that particular class is where we work with our seniors on developing their resume, doing their cover letters, interviewing skills, kind of that job readiness class. And I know business schools sometimes have that too, so I'm not sure how many of your programs might have something similar. But I've taught that for a few years, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, the professor who taught it before me retired, which is why I ended up with the class. Still, and I don't want to make anybody mad if you still do this, still used overhead projectors and, Megan, what do you call the... Transparency. Thank you, transparencies. Showing my age. And that works. I mean, that's a perfectly fine way to do things because it works and it works well, but our students hated it, and I knew it. So when I took on this class, I was trying to think of ways to make this more fun, more upbeat, keep them engaged so they're not falling asleep in class while I'm talking. And I came up with a handful of different ways. One was to use LinkedIn in that class to help them build an online portfolio of sorts. And also to help them begin building, again, a professional network of folks out there. We talk about Twitter, we talk about all these things. About.me, I'm not going to go to that website. Actually, I might go to that website. I think I have it built in. Sorry. I do. So this is my about.me page. I simply have it to show students how you can use it. I don't use it for any other reason. but it's a way to let a student build a landing page. So if a prospective employer is looking at their resume and Googles them, which happens nearly every single time an employer looks at a resume, if they're interested in that person enough, if you have an about.me page, that's going to be one of the first things that comes up if you've set it up correctly, and we talk about all those things too. So it's a way for them to create a professional biography that can be on that page to give a prospective employer a little bit more information, but it's also a way for them to control where that prospective employer might look for them on the internet. So if they want any kind of control over where those eyes go and see things, the best thing to do is to have this page and control it through here. I don't post anything that I wouldn't want my mother to see on any social media, so I'm not too worried about it, and have them all listed, but we know our students do, right? So this gives them a little bit more control of where folks can find them on the internet. It also gives you ways to link to personal websites and a lot of other cool stuff, but we talk about that kind of in conjunction with how to appropriately use social media, which I think is a lesson some need to learn. Okay, the job interview challenge. This was one of my favorite things. Did this for the first time last semester. In my senior seminar class where we talk about professional development. And I walked in on day one and I said to them, here's your syllabus, here's all the cool things we're going to do this semester. And I said to them, if you can find, create this professional network on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, primarily Facebook if you want to go there. If you can connect to a company you're interested in working with and actually get an interview, these are seniors that are in this process, actually get an interview, not necessarily the job, just the interview, I will give you an automatic A for class so long as you turn in all your homework. It's a 1 credit hour course. I've never had anybody get anything other than an A, but they don't know that. It's a lot of feedback is what it is for them mostly. And they all looked at me like I was crazy. Some of you are looking at me like I'm crazy right now. And I said, you know what, you can do it. And I knew they could do it because that's how I find some of them internships along the way. I had, out of 17 students, 7 actually take the challenge, get the interview, and I had 1 young lady get the job. This is Maureen Latona, and you can see this is really just a screen capture off my phone when these tweets were coming in. Dreams do come true. Big thank you to Out Talking Tourism. That's me. Go big or go home is the hashtag they just kind of thought up for the class. She was at a conference networking with some folks, continued to build that network on social media when she came back, and was able to land an interview with this young woman named Jerry Woolworth, who has a huge event planning business in Las Vegas. They do little events, they do huge events, and they do very wonderful events. You can see there, they're setting up the interview time for another convention that Maureen was going to go to. And she actually is now working with Jerry full-time as an event planner. So I use Maureen's story a lot because she's one of my bright shining stars. We all have those certainly. To kind of convince my students that, what, if you do use these tools right, they'll pay off in the long run. Video assignments run throughout my classes. Any way I can figure out how to use video, I do, and it's also a skill that a lot of my students need to know when they get out in the industry, so it serves a couple of purposes. I use this assignment, again, to help students build skills on creating videos. Certainly my marketing and management students will have to know those things in my industry. Have a little fun with an assignment that would otherwise have been boring. And I got this from a young man who graduated about a year ago.
I'm Zachary Sims, and I made this video to show you why I'm the best choice for the park management position. I'm a fun and outgoing person, but I also know how to stay focused on a task and have great attention to detail, making me a perfect fit for the theme park industry. I graduated from Southern Illinois University in May of 2012. I have a bachelor's in hospitality and tourism administration, a minor in marketing, and I specialize in lodging and tourism management. While at SIU, I was involved in many organizations, helping build an extensive personal network, gaining extra educational opportunities, and building my time management skills. While at SIU, I was involved with Eta Sigma Delta Honor Society as Vice President, the Hospitality and Tourism Association, Saluki Volunteer Corps, and SIU Cheerleading as mascot and helping assist the marketing of the program. While attending school, I held 2 freelance jobs, one for Saluki Athletic as a marketing tutor and the other as video promotion and special event promotion for the Carbondale Convention and Tourism Bureau, with our main focus as raising awareness of Carbondale as a destination, targeting families, prospective students, and parents. Outside of school, I have worked in the theme park industry since 2006 in numerous positions of responsibility, from entry-level game attendant and sales host, as well as craftsman apprentice, and now team lead overseeing daily operations. I'm also passionate about giving back. I proudly support charities involved with work in cancer, depression, illiteracy, and many other worthy causes. These are all the reasons that you should choose me for your theme park management position. For more information or to contact me, look at the video description below.
Zach is a little out of the ordinary for my students. He's a bit of a geek, so he has his own website, or did as a student at any rate. He posted this to YouTube. One thing, I'm going to back up real fast. He also has a QR code on his resume that links to, I think, his personal website that then will link you to this video if you want to watch it. Now, he worked for Dollywood as an intern, but he is now working there full-time, and one of the things that his hiring manager, after graduation, his hiring manager said is, you know, you've got a QR code on your resume, I've watched your video, you've got the skills that we need out of our young staff members to actually move your way up and around in marketing management, wherever it is you want to go. So, you know, he kind of already had a foot in the door, having interned with Dollywood for a few years. But these skills will certainly help him get where he wants to go within Dollywood. All right, so getting started. Lots of ways to get started. I had no fear. I jumped right in and I screwed up along the way and figured out how to fix things with things that were going wrong or not working exactly as I wanted to. One of the things, and you may notice this too with your own students, one of the things I struggle with sometimes with my students is their lack of creativity. They come to me in classes and they want to know how many pages their assignment should be. And should it be double-spaced? And what should the title page have on it? And I'm like, you know what? The sky's the limit in some of my classes because we're in kind of creative mode doing unique things. And so I'm constantly trying to get them to, the old cliche is to think outside the box. I actually want them to throw it on the floor and step on it. So it's hard for me to get them past that need of every single thing spelled out. And some of these assignments have helped them kind of get out of that, get away from that comfort zone a little bit. So most of you raised your hand when I asked if you were on some sort of social media. So you have some familiarity already, and that's the easiest and the best place to start. So if you don't know how to use Twitter, I would suggest not using it in your classrooms quite yet, because it will just simply be too confusing. I jumped in not really knowing how to set up a blog or write a blog. I taught myself all of that information. Fell in love with it, by the way, and still blog today. But getting started, I would suggest getting started with something you're familiar with. Learn from your students. My students say things to me, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Don't be afraid to listen to those conversations or have those conversations with your students to build your own skills. I remember my flash drive is actually plugged into the computer, but I remember standing in class the first time I ever saw a flash drive, and one of my international students brought it to class that day for her presentation, plugged it in the computer. This was years ago, and I looked down, I'm like, I need about 12 of those. Had never seen one before. So they were, ahead of me at that point. Some of them are still ahead of me with technology. So it is a challenge to keep up sometimes. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to look like a fool. I go into classrooms sometimes and say, okay, we're going to try this way. This is this is the reason I want to do this in this class. And you're my guinea pigs. So if there's something not working on your end, let me know, because I don't know that otherwise. So we have those frank conversations. Mostly juniors and seniors, so I pretty well know them anyway by the time they get to my classes, so that might be a little bit easier. Keep it simple. Always keep it simple, not just at first. Don't use Facebook and Twitter and blogs and 5 other things. That's too much. So I'll keep it down to like one big thing we might do and sprinkle in a little bit of other things along the way. Collaboration is probably one of the easiest places to start if you're not familiar with social media. And help me out. Do you have Google Mail here, or what do you?
No, we have Outlook.
Outlook. Okay, we're actually shifting to Outlook. So you have SkyDrive.
Yes.
So use those tools that you already have available to you. If you're not familiar with them, there are tons of benefits to becoming familiar with them. Megan and I shared video clips back and forth a little bit to prepare for today. I think we used Google Drive because that was easy for me the day I had it. But use those tools because your students are probably using them anyway. My students use our Google Docs and our SkyDrive to collaborate outside of the classroom to prevent that schedule conflict, especially with teamwork. My students hate group work. Do yours? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I've had to get creative on how to get around that distress and that dislike. But social bookmarking is another great collaborative tool that's real simple to integrate into something like a research project or a group project that might be happening. One of the classes I taught last year, I only had 8 students in it. And typically when I do group work, I split my classes into groups of 3 or 4. But with 8 students, I thought, we'll just do this particular project as a whole class and see how it goes. We used a little bit of our Google Docs for some writing types of things, but I primarily use social bookmarking for this. And if you're not familiar with social bookmarking, we all use Google Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer, right, for internet, and you bookmark things that you can get back to easily later. Social bookmarking is the same concept. You're just doing it out on the internet and can share it if you want to, can keep it private if you don't want to. But one of the cool things, and I use a site called Digo because it's simple, it's streamlined, no fuss. One of the cool things you can do on a lot of the bookmarking sites is create groups, and that's what we did for this class. So I created a group. And again, my class name, so it's easy for them to find. So if you start doing lots of groups, they can find you pretty easily. And this is just a screenshot off of Digo. But what it allowed them to do is, as they're doing their internet research, they could bookmark articles that we wanted to look at later, or they needed to go back to later. They bookmark them so all of us can see that, and we're not all researching the same thing, basically. So everybody has access to what's going on. I'm going to skip that to save some time here. Other bookmarking sites, Pearl Trees is very visual. It is its name. It has little bubbles that look like pearls that hold your bookmark, hold your site that you're wanting to go back to, and you can physically build trees. So it's very visual as compared to some of the other ones. So you can have a tree for social media, a tree for assessment, a tree for how to keep students from falling asleep, trees for whatever. So if you're kind of that visual person, that's a great one. Dig and Delicious are not so visual. Pinterest, however, some of you are on Pinterest, is technically a social bookmarking site, and it's a great way to kind of collect images as opposed to text. Pitfalls to avoid. My dad used to tell me when I would want to do something that the other kids were doing when I was growing up, he would say, if the other kids jumped off a bridge, would you follow? And if I was happy, I would say, well, no. And if I was mad at him that day, I'd say, yes, of course. My point in that is don't use social media just because it's there. It doesn't always work, doesn't always fit with what you're wanting to do. Make sure there is a specific course objective or instructional objective of yours that ties to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, however, whatever you're using. So there's actually a match and everything makes sense inside the classroom. Now, a Facebook group might fall outside of that a little bit because it's a way really just to create some communication effort. But if you're trying to do an assignment or trying to really pull something in to make your class make more sense, make sure it matches and make sure it fits. Social media isn't scary, it's just new. Just like the chalkboard was new 200 years ago, right? And at some point an overhead projector was cool. And I remember when PowerPoint first came to campus when I was a senior in college, that was awesome. I didn't have to listen to lectures anymore. I could read them instead. So every new tool is new at some point, and social media is the same thing. It's a teaching tool for us to use. We've integrated all these other things into our classrooms. We can integrate social media in much the same manner if we're smart about how we use it. Yeah, don't use it because it's cool, although it is very cool. So do you have questions? That's kind of where I was going to end it today. I'm happy to offer suggestions, answer questions, debate if you want to. Yes, ma'am.
So do you have a reference or a resource that you like to use to help get students where they're using social media in a more professional manner as far as how they're using it, what they're putting on? Did you understand?
I don't have like a specific resource I go to necessarily, other than when I find things, articles or something on the internet, I share those with the students. I have a handful of kind of go-to articles that I present to students in our senior seminar class, which I think is probably too late because they're seniors. And we talk about, folks who have been fired because of things they put on Facebook, or folks who have not gotten jobs because of a tweet they sent out. We have those conversations. I have those examples, and I'm happy to share anything with you too. If you have questions, I probably have something in my office that will help. So a specific resource, no, but I do share things that I find along the way with students. I think just based on some comments I hear out of my seniors after they really start to think about how to use social media to benefit them, one of the things I hear most often by the time they graduate is, I've had to go through Facebook and delete 433 pictures of me drinking beer.
Well, that's
Yeah.
my point. Of,
Yeah.
Where their Facebook is starting and where they may want it to be
Right.
before they can do
So
something like
it's
that.
something, unfortunately, that's already kind of ingrained by the time they get to college even. So certainly by the time they're seniors and they hear me drilling it into them, they're having to backtrack to fix things. There are lots of examples. There are lots of examples out there. If you just Google Facebook firings, you'll come up with a handful of stories that you can present. Yeah, and some are not so good.
I just want to share with the groups, I think not so long ago, California State just passed a law that anybody underage should have a way to delete
Their entire
yeah.
cyber life.
No way. I don't know if that will become a trend for other states to join that, but it's good that giving these young kids a second chance to really,
Right.
start presenting themselves to the world.
Yeah, and one of the benefits, and at first this embarrasses students sometimes, which I am not above doing, one of the benefits of being connected to them myself on social media is I can peek in on them if I want to. Because if they're connected to one of my groups or they're connected to something we're doing, I have quite a bit of access to their accounts, just as a, whatever, a fan, a friend, or whatever. So if I see things come across their accounts that are questionable, I'll tell them. I'll say, you know what, I know where you were last night. You know how I know? Here's how I know. And here's what you need to take off your Facebook page. And it scares them at first, but you know what? That employer, that prospective employer is doing the same thing. And I don't do it a lot, but I know faculty who do.
So with your project where you had the interview, if anybody usage. With social media, I mean, the lingo is a little different. You know, so do you discuss or talk about what would be appropriate?
Very much
Those
so.
types of,
Yeah.
on getting them out of.
Yeah. And specifically with Twitter, because I see like text lingo more on Twitter than any other medium. And
Exit character.
absolutely. And I see it from, you know, industry folks that I'm connected to too. But it's hard to control everything they tweet, obviously, or everything they post anywhere. So it's really just trying to get that message to them. But in some ways, it's like raising a kid, if you want to know the truth. I feel that way sometimes. But having the conversation with them that if you're communicating with a professional network, or if you're email's a big one with our students, not writing appropriately, you need to, you know, address that person appropriately, use correct language, correct grammar, spell out "you are," spell out "great," you know, those shortened things that we do, because that's going to set you apart from the person who just kind of falls into that text lingo trap. So we have a lot of those conversations. Yes.
On your assignments, are they secured behind, or like here we have an issue with Blackboard security behind?
Yeah.
So you have that same issue?
My assignments, if they're not physically handed out in the classroom, are posted to Desire. We have Desire to Learn and not Blackboard on campus. They're posted within my Desire to Learn course, so the students have access to them. Outsiders do not.
But how do you get the social media part of it behind there?
I don't.
You don't?
I do not. And I get that question a lot. You're certainly not the first. What I try to do, you know, something like a video assignment, I don't worry about. I don't require them to post it to YouTube or Vimeo if they don't want to. I require them to bring it to me or show it in class so I can watch it. Now, they're certainly free to post it if they want to. I don't require it. Twitter, for instance, I don't require it in my class, but I have an alternative assignment to make up the points for students who just don't want to go there. I've had one student since 2009 not want to use the social media as we're using it in class, and it was an international student who just simply couldn't. So to answer your question, I don't require it, or I don't require the online piece of it if it's a video assignment or something of that nature. But I always have an alternate assignment to kind of counteract the point loss. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, you talked quite a bit about using social media for either an assignment or, I think the job interview thing was really clever. Do you have a sense of if it's not being used for assignments, if it's just for learning the content, do you have a sense that it helps students learn the content, not so much for doing things, but learning the content?
Content in better ways. Now, do I have a research project set up to track any of this? No, I don't. But knowing what the outcomes have been in the past, I've taught my convention management class for 10 years now. And I have seen test scores, and it's a certification course, so we have an exam at the end that certifies them. And I've seen test scores go up and down over the years. I'll be curious to see what test scores look like at the end of the semester, because they're sharing much more information back and forth than they ever have before. And they're reading each other's tweets, posts, they're retweeting, they're connecting with each other in ways that they haven't in the past. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I want to share an example that we're actually running a pilot with a professor. It's actually from the nursing department. What we're using is we use LinkedIn to build a knowledge sharing library. So all the students will create their professional LinkedIn account, and there's an assignment associated with the activity that every week student will share one or two articles that are relevant to the topic. And everybody shares some. Eventually, 10 students, you have 20 articles a day, and they can read each other's posting and stuff like that. The benefit of that is that every semester you teach this class, you add an additional new student. But the alumni still stay with this group. So eventually, you kind of build this wonderful collaboration between your previous student and new student, create that kind of dynamic. I think the key is really trying to create some sort of engagement,
Right.
with the student using these tools and make them feel more attached to the learning, which we're really curious about how the result will be.
Yeah, one thing I have noticed, we do chapter quizzes in my convention class. One thing I have noticed is the quiz scores are a little bit higher, not a lot higher than in past years, which leads me to believe, number one, they are engaged in class. I let them tweet on their mobile devices in class. And I didn't hear anybody gasp. That's a good thing. I had one faculty, when I said that in my program, go, oh my gosh. But to me, it combats that old, let me read the college newspaper while you're talking. They're going to be on their phones, whether I like it, know it, or otherwise. So if I give them a reason to be, they're less likely to be engaged elsewhere about the party Friday night and more likely to stay engaged in my class. And that's exactly what's happening. So most of the tweets that you saw for that class, those were mostly happening in class. And I let that go on. And I look at it after the fact and answer questions if I need to. But then, like today, we're not in class and they're still tweeting about class. So I think that engagement part is very key. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this with your students. I have to shift gears every 10 to 12 minutes with my students. I can't stand up there anymore and lecture for an hour and have them pay attention. So I'm always doing something different. Makes me hot too.
Your Twitter, now, obviously, you set the rules of what they can do.
I set the rules, yeah.
Because the reason I bring it up is because even on our discussion board, if there's a discussion board link up there, we haven't put, I guess it's the nature of our particular group of students, but they'll badmouth the instructor right on there. And that bothers me. That's why I don't set one up for questions to the instructor.
Yeah,
No.
You don't want to, yeah.
And I wonder if you've seen any of that.
Every now and then, I set the guidelines. I say, okay, if you're going to tweet for class, obviously we have to have the hashtag. I need to be able to track it, number one, so we use that. Everything has to be correct grammar. There's no text lingo going on my tweets, on their tweets from my class. You have to be professional. And we talk about what it means to be professional. And I set, at least one tweet about each class, those kinds of guidelines as to keep them moving forward. I've had a couple instances in the past few years that I've been doing this where I've had to kind of rein people back in a little bit. One this semester tweeted, and I've forgotten what the tweet was, and it wasn't anything horrendous, or I would remember it, but it was just one of those, you could have maybe said this a little bit differently, whatever the topic was. And I said that to him. The next time I saw him, I said, you know what, I saw your tweet, and let's think about how you can make yourself look better by not saying it quite that way the next time. So I'm not at all afraid to have those conversations with our students. I think they need somebody sometimes to say those things to them. For the most part, I haven't had any issues. They're all very respectful. But again, up front, we have those conversations too. This is for you, the student, to build your professional network. Think about what that's going to do for you and mean for you in 5 years. Yes, ma'am.
So, are these classes that you meet face-to-face and you're using this? Because I think it might be different if you're talking about a totally online class where you're using it so you don't build that kind of rapport with your students.
Right. Actually, all of the ones I've given you today have been face-to-face courses, all the examples. I do use social media in my online classes. The one thing that I have found, though, with our Desire to Learn program, it's almost pointless to bring in outside social media unless, again, there's really just a specific tie-in to it somewhere. So at the most I have done in online courses, because we have the discussion forums, well, that takes place, that replaces some of the collaborative and communication issues. So the most I have done outside of the actual social media class that I teach online is maybe the video assignment or a creative presentation type of assignment, those kinds of things. So that goes back to making sure that what you're using has a use. And for us, Desire to Learn kind of mimics some of the reasons I use social media in the classroom, in the face-to-face classroom. So it's a balance to figure out what's going to work where.
And I will add on that if you're teaching an online course, a lot of the social media, you can actually focus on creating that group collaboration. Like, you have a platform for them to pitch in what they have researched, or have a topic, allow them to share what their thoughts are. I thought those are a great way to use social media for online classes. So there's a different purpose, depends on
the format in the class. Social bookmarking would be one that would be an easy kind of integration into that online class. The one thing that I tried and failed this one time too, that I am very cognizant of with a complete online course is they're logging into Desire to Learn every other day, daily, whatever it happens to be for them. I don't want them to have to log into something else and something else and something else also, because it becomes too much, for them to manage. So I'm very kind of cognizant in how to do that. But something like social bookmarking or some of the assignments that might use a social, and not everything is social. I call some social and I call some new media, but again, it just goes back to what is going to fit with what you're trying to get them to learn, what you want those outcomes to be in the end. We have 3 minutes left.
I was going to ask you on Facebook, I know how to create a closed group, which you can make for your class, but in my closed group that I set up for a group of alumni, we can access each other's news feeds. And I wouldn't necessarily want my students to be able to access my news feed. Can you restrict that?
You can, because I have, but I would have to look at Facebook.
And this is something you can contact our office, we'll help you.
Yeah, but yeah, you can, because the groups that I have set up, we don't have access to each other's news feeds, even unless you're already connected to that person on Facebook outside of the group. Then, of course, you have access, but beyond that, no.
Okay, let's give a round of applause.
Thank you. If you have other questions, I'm happy to stick around and chit-chat.
We have a little gift for you.
Oh, I like
And
this.
thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you. And thank you for spending your lunch hour with me.
And thank you.
Oh, can I open it?
So if you have any
Thank you.
questions about using social media for your class, doesn't have to be online. My staff will be very happy to sit down and work with you and figure out what your teaching objective is, and try to figure out what the best tool that will fulfill that goal. So don't be afraid to contact us. You know where we are. Thank you again for your time coming here. This is really a wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.